This week on Lemon's Car Spotting.
Hey everybody, it is Eric and it is Nick, and we are talking about Chicago underground rappers right before we went on. But now we're going to talk about Lemon's Car Spotting. So take it away, Nick.
If you know anything about Cap D, post in the comments. We're starting off in another part of the Midwest, Kenosha, Wisconsin. It's a Hornet coupe.
Yeah.
What do they call that? It's got a name. AMC product of the 70s, probably a straight six, I'm guessing. What would this had? A 258? Could you get a V8 in this? I don't know.
I think, depending on the year, I think you could get a 304, which was the smallest one they made. Yeah.
Yeah. This is, it's not a horrible design. Like, what would this have been doing competition with? It's like a Mustang, 73 Mustang, or this?
The coupe, let's see, like a Nova, maybe.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess maybe that's more, it's a little more sedan shaped. So, Nova, Fairlane, I suppose. Or wait, we're talking the 70s. What was the Ford? What were they selling us then?
The Maverick.
Yeah. Man, there you go.
There's some options.
I mean, this is just like the slightly more pedestrian version of something like a Javelin. It's pretty neat. I like it.
Yeah. We've talked in the past about AMC being pretty conservative design language wise, but it's kind of tasteful and works. I like the Landau top. It's just a clean design, really. Dog dish hubcaps, one missing is true to form there too. So super cool.
Last week there was a Rambler that had body color steel wheels, and we made a comment about that. Somebody rattle canned them, the body color. Now I'm kind of thinking that's just a factory Rambler AMC thing, because this looks super factory with the body color on the wheels.
Yeah, I hope that is right, because that's kind of a super cool low effort thing they could do.
Kind of sweet.
Yeah.
God! Sorry.
Too many good.
Man.
Too many good.
Dramatic foreshadowing to the awesome things to come.
Is this one of the Checker ones, or is this a Chevy? It looks like
it's a Chevy. Like
early '60s Suburban. I guess. I don't know if they called it that at the time, but boy, that's amazing. And of course, there's purpose for these. You see, there's multiple doors. These were airport shuttles. This is what these were mostly designed for. Checker made one too. So you would go to wherever, drop your car off, and then the shuttle would take you right to the terminal.
It's fulfilling the function that is now achieved by the Ford E-Series van chassis with the most flexible, scarily rattling fiberglass thing on the back. We've all been in one of those.
Yeah.
This obviously has a lot more style.
Yeah, and man, I love it's got the same hood and nose as the Apache pickup trucks from the era. And I don't know. I just really love the way that kind of folds over the front fenders.
Yeah.
It's a really small thing, but it's kind of really tastefully done. I always like that about that. But good.
The design element I like is like the angle of the nose is sort of reflected in the pillars. And obviously this particular version has more pillars than the average Chevy Apache. And what it reminds me of is the GM fishbowl bus that would have been around the same time that had a whole bunch of angled windows like this. And it just, it imparts a sense of moving forward. It's cool.
Also, it's got sweet two-tone flame job over it.
It sure does. It sure does.
It's a great spot.
Well, you got a preview of it a second ago when I double clicked by mistake. You got ourselves a Jeep J10 Honcho. They really had the best nicknames Jeep did back then. I mean, you had the Renegade, you had the Golden Eagle, and you had obviously the Honcho. There was another one on the CJ, I think, that I'm forgetting. What were all the Jeep names that you could get either on the regular Jeep or the pickups back then? Post down in the comments. And they not only were they named that, but they let you know. Yeah. I mean, it said Honcho in big letters on the side, in addition to the totally sweet stripe kit. Man, I will say, man, this is like the Malaise era is like the middle school of cars, where it's just everything was awkward. There was weird stuff that was added on, and it like, you know, we got through it, and you know, things looked better later. I will say that this is a remarkably successful, because the Jeep J10, that goes back to like the Kaiser era, and the 60s version is super cool and 60s and funky looking, and they somehow successfully made that into like, you know, the 1978 sport truck, you know, driven by dudes with mullets and giant mustaches, and it kind of works. Somehow they made that transition.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is an AMC product at the time. You know, you don't think of AMC as like, oh man, that's styling and wow, you know, it's got some zazz, but man, they slapped it right on there and it works.
Yeah. I remember my buddy Bill, who has a CJ7. We were trying to think of like, well, you could put Renegade or Golden Eagle on there. That would be factory correct. But what word could you put in the same lettering and font that would be funnier and make people like sort of like kind of like, God, was that factory? Like start to second guess themselves. Like, I've never seen one of those before. And what we settled on was El Guapo on the hood in the stock AMC lettering.
I mean, yeah, as long as you're commenting, you know, in the comments where you comment, what would you put on the side of your Honcho in a similar fashion?
Right. Exactly. What lettering would you put on your 70s Jeep product? Oh, buddy.
In the grand tradition of naming, well, let me back up a little bit here. All right. So Americans love to name car models after places that they are never going to go to in those cars. You know, Monte Carlo springs to mind. Originally, Suzuki Reno is the attainable version of this. Yeah. It is a car you could very well take to Reno, and in fact, would become invisible in the city of Reno, as much as it always is. There's nothing to say about the Suzuki Reno.
This is the most generic. I mean, this is the Grand Theft Auto Mazda 5, or Mazda 3 rather. Like, you get in, like, you know, you're driving around in Grand Theft Auto. Hey, it's a Mazda 3, and you get in, and the little thing on the screen says Reno. And you're like, oh, all right, well, I guess that's what they're calling it. Didn't want to pay for the rights. So yeah, I mean, that is just incredibly generic.
Yeah. It's some kind of 2-liter Hyundai-ish engine. It's a hatchback. And God, it must have cost $0 to buy. What's amazing to me, this one's in Athens, Ohio, of all places, is that it's clean. Like, you would expect this would be completely rusted out and filled with garbage. So I don't know. It's odd. This is an extraordinarily odd car.
So was there post in the comments, what were the different body configurations you could get of the Suzuki Reno? Because this is a 5-door. What else? Do they have a sedan and a wagon? Probably not. Maybe a 3-door. Maybe a 3-door, a 5-door, and a sedan. I don't know. Tell us in the comments. On the comments of the original post, somebody said, oh, yeah, I worked at a dealership in Canada, and this was sold as what else? The Chevrolet Optra 5.
God, they somehow found a worse name. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Biggest little city in the world.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. Wait, do you have this one or do I?
This is yours, but
Oh,
if you want me to dive in, I can talk.
Well, it's a Cutlass. Is it a Cutlass Sierra XC Special Edition?
I don't know. There were a billion special editions when they launched the A body, like dozens of them, and this is one of them. I have no idea what it is.
I am thinking Cutlass Sierra because of the taillight. It's got the tall vertical taillights that the Celebrity did not have. And the only reason I'm semi-familiar with the Cutlass XC Special Edition is that a really nice one recently raced in Lemons just last year at Buttonwillow. And it was white. That one was white, but had a similar red stripe that went around. So I'm thinking that might be what this is. But yes, what was the motor in this era A body? Is it an Iron Duke or the 3.1 V6 or 2.8, something like that?
Yeah. It's the Iron Duke or the 2.8. This is before the 3.1 because this is pretty early on. Man, one of my favorite things about the A body is that there were two facelifts, and they all look identical. Like they didn't change anything, but that came with the 3.1.
I mean, this was the car that on paper was like, why get an E30 when you could get this? And I mean, this if that were to happen today, it would be this is the we've got E30 at home, the E30 at home. That old meme. But I'm sure it was cheaper.
Yeah, man, I've driven so many of those A bodies, and they're like the play in the steering wheel.
Where do they rank on the Ford Tempo scale?
Oh boy, it's a wash. It's slightly better, I guess. They're a little more comfortable, it's less. We should probably have traded because I don't know anything about Peugeot 505. But
I know.
Lord, there are two of them.
This is completely unfair because the Californian gets the Cutlass Sierra and the Midwesterner gets the pair of Peugeot 505s. Well, good luck, Eric. Go for it.
Yeah, they made some of these with turbos. They made some of these with diesels. I don't think they made a turbo diesel that they sold here. Maybe they did. Anyway, speaking of the E30 you have at home,
this is the E28 you have at home.
It's obviously a little bigger than the E30. But big French wagon, weird car. AMC door handles. That's the extent of my knowledge about these.
Well, I don't, Armand, a friend of Lemon's, Armand is the 505 expert. I don't know a huge amount about these. I believe the engine options that we had were naturally aspirated gas 4-cylinder, naturally aspirated diesel, turbo 4-cylinder, and V6, the PRV V6 came in at some point. The turbo gas 4-cylinder is the one that you want. I forget if that was just called the 505 turbo. There's something called a 505 GTX, STX, something like that. Anyway, these are the wagons. Probably the gas 4-cylinder, because that was the most common thing that you got with this. Like all French cars of this era, they, for some reason, lasted forever if you were in Cameroon. But if you tried to own one in Los Angeles, it would break all the time. And, you'd immediately trade it in for a BMW or, whatever. So that is a disconnect in the automotive world that I've never understood. That in all of the French colonial places in Africa, you'll see 505s. 504s just driving around like, oh yeah, these things are indestructible. They run forever. In Africa, where presumably there isn't great Peugeot dealer and parts support. Yeah. So I can't explain that. I will say, I think all being equal, this car does go toe-to-toe with the E28 as far as styling. I mean, these are kind of the frumpiest, the base model wagons with the roof rack. But if you get the turbo 505, get some nice wheels on it, I think that's maybe even a better looking car than an E28.
Fair enough.
All right. I've got the hooptiest for this week. Kind of a decent group this week as far as hooptiness. Got ourselves well, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna depart from logic a little bit, and the hooptiest car this week is the one that probably operates the best as a car, and that's gonna be the Suzuki Reno, because what is more hoopty than an off-brand Mazda 3? Like, the Mazda 3 is a fine car, but it's not something that you need to imitate in a cheaper way. Just get the thing that it is. Don't try to beat the system, save $12 and get the knockoff.
Yeah, good points all. And go ahead and fire up yon daily double, because this is the one we want to see in Lemons too. I mean, like, if it has a Suzuki badge on it, it is perfect for Lemons. Maybe not the Samurai because of the whole rolling over thing, but this is a few years past this. In fact, I honestly have no idea what model year this is. Is it a 1997? Could be. Is it a 2012? Don't know. But the whole anonymity of this car is what makes it perfect for Lemons. I mean, they're just so weird and out there. Like, it's such a strange thing that even exists. And,
yeah.
I mean, nobody wants one. I wouldn't think. You'd probably dig one up for about $8 still.
Yeah. Oh, sure. As soon as like you have a wear and tear failure, like, it needs this new CV axle or whatever, like, it's just going to be totaled. Like, like, what year Reno? I don't know what that is. So, we've talked about Suzuki before. They make some of the best motorcycles you can get, but for some reason that did not translate to cars. Unlike Honda, which somehow maintained the level of excellence from 2 wheels to 4, Suzuki, there was a tremendous drop off.
Yeah. A side note, one of the things that we really want to see from Lemons is a multi-car team with similar named cars, the XR7, RX7, XL7 trio with the Reno. We'd love to see you bring a Suzuki Reno and a Kia Rio. I don't think I just said that right, but it doesn't matter. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So do that.
We get it. It's the dominant 2-car Reno Rio effort.
There it is.
That's what it is. So work on that, and on the side while you're building those cars, because that's what you should do. Find these cars on the street, post them on Instagram with the hashtag Lemons Car Spotting. We'll find them and talk about them.
There you go.
Oh, God. Yet another car that wound up as a rebadged Chevy that wasn't that good. God, Chevy is just scraping the bottom of the barrel for cars that they can badge engineer.
Yeah. You got any more of them cars?